Wherever you're watching us from or wherever you're listening to us from, this is Heartfelt Conversations with Wedera Kibinda. And yes, I am Wedera Kibinda, your favorite thought provoker and conversation starter. It's another beautiful episode. Wow. Allow me to give a big shout out first, and a bigger and a louder God bless ya to everyone who sacrificially gives to ensure that our content gets to you on time and it's of quality. And we continue keeping Jesus on the airwaves. A big shout out to our partners. Because of you, we have been doing this for 25 years and we're going to do it for another 25 and multiples of 25. If you're there and you're wondering, how do I join and how do I become part of this partnership? How do I continue and giving content that is of quality? Just text the word partner to 20316 or send a WhatsApp message to 0786 316 316. And I promise you, we will get back to you and tell you how. Well, today on Heartfelt Conversations, we are going to be talking about HR at home. Yes, I hear that sigh. I hear you asking, why there are HR at home? Just a quick reminder is that Heartfelt Conversations is a place where we have safe conversations. What you'll naturally not speak about in public, but is of importance and influences you and where you are at in life. So today we're going to be talking about HR at home. And I'm joined by two wonderful ladies. I am joined by Edna Geshovi. Edna is an author. She's a mom. She writes children's books. I am also joined by Metrin. Metrin is also a young mom. And better still, she serves young mothers through Zaria Domestic Center, right?
Yes.
I got it right.
You got it right.
And it's basically attaching you as an employer to your quote unquote perfect or suitable fit for your home. So we are joined by Edna and by Metrin. But before I even tell them karibuni sana, I want to take us to Colossians 3:23, which says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, working as for the Lord and not for human masters. Today's show is gonna be lit. So Edna and Metrin, karibuni sana.
Thank you.
Karibuni, feel at home. So I'll start with you, Edna. Please tell us a bit about yourself. What have I missed in this introduction so that my audience on TV and radio can be able to connect with you?
Sure. Thank you so much for this. Thank you for having me. This is a topic I enjoy talking to people about.
Yes.
So my name is Edna Gishovi. I am a psychologist. That's one of the things you left out.
Yes.
I forget sometimes. When you wear many hats, sometimes you forget.
Yes,
You forget some of the things you do. Yes, I'm a
Yes.
psychologist. I am practicing. I am in the humanitarian space. I am a children's book author.
Yes.
I am a mom to 3 beautiful children.
Wow.
The youngest being very fresh off the boat.
Yes.
3-month-old.
3 months. Wow.
I am
Thank
a
you.
wife, a happily married wife.
Yes.
And I am a follower of Jesus Christ,
Yes.
more importantly.
I love
Yes.
that. You have so many hats and you seamlessly wear them at the same time. So
Not seamlessly,
Yes.
but I wear them. Sometimes at different times, sometimes at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much. And over to you, Metrin. Tell me, what have I missed in your grand introduction?
Thank you very much, Waithera. My name is Metrin Kanaiza. I am a mom, of course, to one very beautiful, lovely daughter. Her name is Amani.
Yes.
She's 6 years old. I am a wife. I have my background is in finance.
Wow.
I did study finance.
Yes.
But in the course of life, I found myself navigating into other spaces. I'm very passionate about being a very intentional mom. And on that note, I landed myself in a very happy space.
Yes.
The space is called Zaria Center.
Wow.
Where I get to fulfill most of many moms, I'd call it frustrations. So I get to be there and help moms seamlessly through their day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I am a young mom. I have no idea between breastfeeding, maintaining a home. I just call Metrin,
Definitely.
and then you sort me out.
Give me a call.
Yes.
I'll walk you through that journey.
I love it. I
Yes.
love it because it's so confusing.
Very.
I remember when I was one, you get lost. So thank you very much for that, and congratulations
Thank
on
you.
being intentional about it.
Thank you.
I will throw the question to you, Edna, first. A subject we don't talk about.
Yeah.
Mental wellness for the domestic worker. And in this case, domestic here will mean home, your gardener, your nanny, your housekeeper, a caregiver. How can employers ensure that we give a conducive environment to that person working with and for us, and ensure their mental wellness?
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't think it's something we think about or talk about often.
Yeah.
I've had someone a while back on a conversation talking about the fact that most of us, or most people who find themselves in the domestic workspace, that's not what you grew up wanting to do. It's because of life circumstances. And many of them will come to you with very sad stories. And I'm sure, Metrin, you've had that. You've had that as a mom, they didn't finish school. My dad left us. I'm an orphan, all sorts of things, abuse, all that stuff. So I had that a couple of years back, and it was a game changer for me in how I approach domestic workers, domestic help. So I've become much more understanding of some of the things people complain about. Maybe communication is not being well done, or someone is forgetful, or why is she like this? So people come from very, very tough backgrounds. And I think, just knowing that first, you will lower your expectations significantly, and you won't be like easily triggered. Of course, yes, there's a standard you expect, but you'll not have standards that are unrealistic, unattainable. So I think, that's just one thing I can say. And of course, just being human. I think all of us, the golden rule is following the golden rule, treat others as you would like to be treated.
Wow.
So that's, I guess, it's a basic. We forget that sometimes. But just for me, knowing that they didn't start out wanting, I didn't live my life wanting to come and live in
when
someone's
I grow
live
up.
and live and work with, like, as a nanny or as a domestic help. It's because of these circumstances. Like, it really helped me be more understanding, and I think that's best I can say about that.
Know where the person is coming from.
Yes.
Metrin, we are getting into a century where people have to define the relationship. So as a young mom or a young family or someone who's now starting to seek out domestic help, how do I seamlessly move from informal to formal? This is, for instance, because before, I mean, your mother is the one, or your mother-in-law is the one who brings you the help. Yes. So how do we move from that? How do we say, Apana, sit here, let's read the contract. This is what I'm bringing to the table, and this is what you're bringing to the table.
We are in a century where domestic workers is now becoming a formal employment.
Yes.
People go to school to study it these days.
Wow.
It's no longer get me somebody from home who can do this and this. It's formal employment, just like any other office job. So as a young parent, or as a parent, or rather, you need to be able to set your expectations right from the word go. And it's good that people like us as Area Center, we are here so that we can streamline and make the process effortless for you. Because most of the time, parents or young moms find themselves on the wrong foot of the law because of not knowing, lack of information and knowledge.
And ignorance is not what...
it's not an excuse. Ignorance is not an excuse. So as people like us, we come in and help you streamline those processes. What are your expectations? Put them right on the word go, so that when this employer comes to your home, they know what is expected of them. At least then it minimizes the risks of this did not happen. I was not aware of this. Yeah, exactly.
And the turnover.
Exactly.
So I have a checklist. I
Yeah.
am looking for this. This is their age. This is their what.
This is
That's
their
the
tribe.
first place.
That is the
Yes.
first place.
Yeah.
What are you looking for? What are your expectations? Once you know what your expectations are, it will be easier for the person sourcing for you the help to be able to at least shortlist or narrow it down to something closer to what you're looking for. Exactly.
Okay. So it's not ambiguous. It's not air.
Yeah, no, it's not air. It's not magic.
It's not magic.
Yeah.
You have to be intentional.
You have to
That's
be
what
very
we say.
intentional.
Yeah.
Exactly. About who you're looking for. Remember, this is a stranger coming into your home.
Yes, it's a stranger.
And
yes.
most difficult about these domestic helpers, imagine bringing somebody you don't know where they come from, who they are, into your own personal space, trusting them with your life.
Children, my
Exactly.
life, my food.
Imagine they
Yeah.
could do anything to you. So you have to be very intentional, know what you're looking for. Once you get that right, we will minimize this, mishaps that we get.
Okay, I like that. So, assuming, Edna, that we have gotten the perfect fit, they have come and they are settling into your home. And I like it because we're going to share a lot of personal examples. But there is a line. How, and something called mom guilt. How does this help come to offer support and not take away my parental roles and responsibilities? And then how else do I draw the boundary that my children respect this person, and do ABCD? So tell me first, mom guilt, how is this helping and not taking over parental roles?
Wow, mom guilt.
Mom guilt.
Very familiar. Yeah, I think it's something lots of us experience as moms. And first, you have to know that, I am recently now calling this is the village. You know how we say it takes a
Yes,
village,
it takes a village to raise
up a child.
Yeah.
And now there's no village. It's not like the olden days where you're living with your mom, your relatives, there's
In-laws.
multiple caregivers.
Yeah.
Now it's you and your, like, I always laugh when police would ask me when I had my first kid, is your mom coming? I was like, no, my mom had an 8 to 5 job at the time. At the time I was having my first child.
Yes.
Of course, she would have loved to be there and come and help out.
Yeah.
No, it was I was discharged from the hospital and I went home. I went home with my baby and all that stuff. And so this is the village. So I think that should at least help alleviate the mom guilt. And for me, I've kind of offloaded that guilt. Maybe it's not all fully gone over time, that you actually need the help and the support. And lots of people suffer from things like postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, and not just postpartum, just generally when you're not in a place, parenting, mothering, it's a lot. You need all the support you can get. So for me, I say, please get all the help you can. If you can afford even 2 nannies, please go ahead and get.
It
Why
is
not?
your village.
It is your village.
Yeah.
Get all the support, get all the resources you need. But on the other hand, I think it's a fine line where sometimes we also knowingly or unknowingly offload our parental, like what we really should be doing as parents. Like, don't be so hands off. You really need to. Sometimes we get so busy with the 8 to 5 or whatever you're doing on a day-to-day, and you forget to run your household. So you also maybe need to keep your eye on the ball, if I can use that phrase. You need to know at least that your kids are being fed properly, as in he's helping you manage the house. But at the end of the day, when it comes to, maybe for me personally, I know my kids being engaged, that's me if I'm there.
Yes.
My kids, even what they watch, I cannot delegate things like that to her. What they read, their homework, I really try as much as possible to be there for things like that. And I'll be helped with the housework. Why not? There's no, I think we really need to let go. It takes a lot to constantly remind me, yes, let yourself be helped. Let yourself be helped with the housework, with the everything you need to, but also know how to maintain your presence at home and how to ensure you're spending time with your kids, because it's not them spending time with their kid even the whole day. That's not the same as you as a parent spending time with your kid. You still need to do that. So it's a balance, a tough balance at times. It's an intricate balance. You have to accept the help, but you also need to know this is where this is where I come in, or this is where I need to be seen. I need to have my input as a mom, as a dad, as a parent. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Edna, for that insightful conversation. But I want to wing it to you, Metrin, and ask you about recruitment and onboarding. So we've said we have moved from where your mother or your mother-in-law, your sister
Exactly.
has someone from up country, they have brought you someone, and this one is traceable.
Yeah.
You can say they
Very
live
traceable.
up to here.
Exactly.
But now in an urban setting, and we are trusting placement centers like Zaria or like yourself, how do you ensure that the person I am bringing to my home is quote unquote perfect?
Reliable.
Yes, reliable.
Trustworthy.
There's no criminal record or things like those. How do you guys do that?
Okay, so for us at Zaria Center, we pride ourselves in doing a very thorough background check. And we do understand that we live in a very uncertain world. You never know who's out there
Yes.
looking for what. So exactly. So once a worker comes into the facility, we first assess them physically. Are they able first to work? It's one thing wanting to work, and it's another thing being able to work.
Yeah.
So we do a physical assessment.
Oh.
Yeah. Once they pass the physical assessment, then they fill in a biodata form. In the biodata form, they fill in details, personal information. This is their name, their ID number, their mobile number, their passport numbers, their location, village location.
Yes, next of kin.
Exactly. Once they fill in the personal information, they go to the education information. We need to know their level of education. They go to the previous employment details, who we later on call to ascertain. We are very good in doing the grilling and finding out, is it a genuine
your
employer?
due diligence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, everybody would write anybody to stand in for you as a referee.
Yeah.
We do call former employers, and then we call their family members. We also get letters from local authorities.
Chief.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Not chief from Nairobi.
No,
Chief from your village.
Yes.
From home.
Yeah.
So they come with those letters and the letters of their pastors. At least then we feel more safe.
Safe, yes.
It couldn't be 100% because if somebody has the intention of doing something bad, even with letters from the chief,
Yes,
they'll do
will
it.
do it, yes.
But at least we are like 70% safe. If we feel there's mishap and some information that is not right, we ask for good conduct. Yes, that is how we do our background check.
I love that because I think as a young mom, you don't have the time. Yes, it sounds very thorough, but you don't have time to start saying, "Ebu nilete." And before we used to quote unquote confiscate the ID.
We don't do that. It's against the law.
As we learned. Yes, Edna.
Let me just add that.
Yes, confess.
I'm not confessing. I have nothing to confess. But let me just say that a lot of the information we came into this as young moms, at least for me, you got this information from your mom, your aunt, how they used to handle domestic workers.
Yes.
It was
a while
passed down.
back. It was
passed down to
There was
you.
a lot of unlearning.
It wasn't
unpacking,
broken,
and
so we are not fixing it.
Yeah.
So it's funny that there are people who used to do that. You see, as that's where that comes from. That you even have to say it's against the law because the people used to do that. The people who never used to give off. Atenela, off your nini.
Often in December.
There's just a lot of unlearning. Let me say because for me when I started employing, a lot of the information, I was new to everything. I was talking to older moms. I was calling my mom, my aunts, anyone who could tell me, hey, how much do you pay them? Hey, how do you And of course, I'm also trying to remember how we were raised at home because we used to have help at home, from Ushago. That's where you used to get them and all that. So there's a lot of unlearning to do. And back then, let me say that the bureau or the agency, they were really frowned upon, niwezi.
Exactly.
That was the
Kuna
vibe.
scheme hapa.
But then for me, I say a good help can come from anywhere. It could be that referral from Ushago. It could be and a bad help can also come from anywhere. And if someone is out to steal, it
They
could really
will.
be anyone. So I think there's a lot of unlearning we've had to do. A lot of they used to do this a while back, or my mom did this, but I can't. No,
Now
that's
you
not how I
can't. It's not
operate.
me.
So
But let me tell you something from
Edna.
experience. It is very important or paramount to do that background check. Because we've had experiences where we've taken somebody who stole from where they were.
Oh.
Yes.
Wow.
We've had experiences, and unfortunately, I'll just have to mention it. You call the family members, this is like a brother or a sister, and they're like, we've not seen her for the last 3 years.
Whoa.
explain to me
It's a
why.
red flag.
Yes.
Why would we onboard such a candidate?
Yes.
Should any, it's even for their safety.
Yes.
We've had incidences where a girl gets sick in your home. Assuming you didn't do your background check.
Yes.
Where do you start from?
And then because I'm desperate, but
know.
Epileptic
everyone
or some condition
And
that
we
you
get
had no
those
idea.
informations from their family members.
members.
Them, because of fear of not being taken,
Yeah.
they will hide some information.
Stuff, yes.
But you talk to the mom, they'll tell you, please, saidia msichana wangu, she's sick, she falls,
Yes.
she has this condition,
And of
but
course,
just
it's
help
not,
her
we don't want
regardless.
to be discriminatory, of course,
Yeah.
in our hiring practices,
Yeah.
but it's good to know.
It's
good to
know.
disclose
It's
things
good
like
for
that.
somebody. If
Yeah.
you're taking somebody to stay with you day and night, Monday to Saturday, you need to know, are they sick?
Yes.
Are they on any medication?
Yeah.
So in cases of an emergency, you have where you can start from.
Yes,
You take
again.
somebody to the doctor and say, she's epileptic.
Yes.
Rather than taking somebody to the hospital,
Yeah.
you're equally telling the doctor, I don't know what's happening.
Yes. And that's what I think, Edna, you mentioned. Treat them as you want to be
Exactly.
treated. So
Just-
even in a
yeah.
corporate setting, I'd want to know, oh, I'm on a special diet because of ABCD.
ABCD, yeah.
But even as we, right, and I like how that conversation has flowed, because then now we're introducing something called healthy work-life balance. If you're fighting for it at your workplace, how do you then give it to the domestic help or domestic worker working in your home? How does that look like for you,
Yeah.
Edna?
So for me, it's been a long. I've been doing this for now 6 years. I've come a long way. I've learned a lot over time from different quarters. So I think the well-known off near Sunday thing is what most people will do, and some people are okay with that. So that's what I used to do. I would give my nanny, my DM, the off on Sunday. Then over time, I found another one who preferred Saturday because she had her kids here. So it started being a Saturday evening thing. And by then my kid, because I had one child at the time, was grown enough for me to say, I can manage.
hack,
So she can go on Saturday afternoon or Saturday early evening, and she'll be back on Sunday evening, something like that. So I think it's very important. And also it's according to the law, there's an expectation that they're accumulating leave days. And when you're accumulating your leave days at the workplace,
Yes.
even them, there are
There are
entitled to
21
days.
exclusive of public holidays.
Exactly. And let me say, I didn't start out knowing this. Someone watching might think, higher, it sounds very daunting when you come to all this legal and labor law information. It may sound very daunting at first, but this is things I've learned over time, and now I'm very quick to practice that. My current nanny was going on Saturday evening, Saturday afternoon sometimes, but now we have a new baby, so things we've had to discuss, things have changed a little bit. She's now going on Sunday. I know we'll go back again to a point where she's going on Saturday evening. For public holidays, yes, that's another thing that, again, people just, we did know some of these things. And I've also learned, as I've said, that this is also very, very key to give public holidays and to note, there's Madaraka Day, Labor Day. If it happens in the middle of the week, we've not discussed, she's going, I pay her extra.
Yes.
I'll
There
pay
are
her
black tours
extra.
that come.
Once in a while, I will request her, this Sunday, please, I'm having guests. Could you stay? And then we'll give you, I'll compensate you with another off day. We also look into that. She has kids of her own as well. And I can imagine the difficulty of, leaving your kids, not seeing your kids pretty much all year. There's some who don't even go home because they don't want to spend the money. Imagine you've not seen your kids all year. She's a mother like you. You really have to think about that. So I try at least over the April holidays, August holidays, to also organize myself, get a reliever. Yes, they're like all of these things I've had to learn.
Yes,
I've had
there are
to learn.
systems.
There's a system you can put in place to ensure that she's also getting her time off. So April, she'll get a week or some days off. August, she's already taken her off, like now as we speak. And December, I already know the day she told me on 20 such and such a date we're having this thing. So I come knowing, December starts,
Yeah.
I'll need someone to relieve her from this time to this time.
So, and that
it's
helps with
very,
the
very
balance
important.
now.
It helps with the balance. And let me tell you, there's a spring in her step when she comes back. You can
I
tell
know.
she's
She's
fresh.
refreshed.
She's refreshed.
Yeah.
She's come back. She's well rested. You don't want someone to stay at your, even if you're paying Monday to Sunday. No, you don't want that. You also really need to be very intentional.
Yes, you need to reset. I love that.
And even the small things like sometimes I'll notice, you've worked really late, Ama, you've worked really late for the last couple of days. Do you need to maybe do this tomorrow or today, Saturday? You don't need to be up so early. We're not going anywhere. It's just, if they're not going to school, where things, small things like that. Do you need to, if like for me right now, my current situation is I have 3 kids, I have young kids. We have someone coming to support during the day as well, because I'm not expecting her to help me with the kids, to help, like every single thing is on her.
She's the alpha and omega.
No, so, and I say that coming from a point of privilege, maybe at this point, there's a time I was not doing this. I was not in a position to do this, but now I can, and now I see the importance, and things run much smoother.
Okay. I love that. But we need to go on a break.
Sure.
We need to go on a break. And when we come back, we continue the conversation for HR at home. How do you ensure you have a thriving environment in your home, also as an employer or an employee? This conversation is not just for the employer, but it's also for the employee. So we'll catch you right after the break.
We are living in a lost and broken world, constantly bombarded by messages of hate and atrocities. But with God, we can overcome. Find hope and restoration on the go through life-changing shows on the Family Media app.
And then you will lose yourself and gain the world. And Jesus said, what good is it?
Get to stream Family TV and Family Radio 316 straight from your phone. Catch up on a show you missed or create video streaming playlists by saving and watching videos from our huge variety of shows at your own convenience. Download the Family Media app, available for all Android and iOS users on the Google Play Store and Apple Store, respectively. Family Media, keeping Jesus on the airwaves.
What a wow. Today we're having a great conversation with Edna Gishovi. She's an author, she's a mom, children's author, a mom, many things, a humanitarian practitioner, but also a psychologist. Just the right blend for this conversation. And today, as we speak about HR at home, she's sharing some of her experiences. How do we get here? How do you get unstuck? And how do you unlearn some of the practices that were passed on from your parents and you've easily adapted them? Because if it was not broken, well, we're fixing it. But I'm also joined by Metrin. Metrin is also a young mom, and she works at Zaria Center. And Zaria basically will match you as an employer to your perfect fit to your home. So she's talking to us about background checks, what they have to do to ensure you have the suitable candidate. How do you ensure that there's balance? How are you treating these people like one of your own, despite them being a stranger and into your home? So I want to pick up this conversation with you. Metrin, highlight to us some of those Kenyan labor laws as an employer starting out that I should look out for. I know every May 1st, something changes.
It changes.
So tell us about compensation, overtime, service. Tell us about that.
Okay, well, we need, as employers now,
Yes.
we need to be very familiar with the labor laws. Because as I mentioned, one small mistake is going to get you on the wrong side of the law. This starts with minimum wage. What's the minimum wage?
What is the minimum wage?
Ideally, I also grew up with house helps.
Yes.
And back in the days, you would just ask, Wanalipwa, you ask a friend, how much are they being paid? How much can I pay them? It's no longer the same. A domestic worker is equally an employer. They also remit taxes to the country. So they're entitled to rights just like any other profession. So it varies. The Kenyan law varies. For domestic help, it varies with counties.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the same everywhere.
Okay.
Like, for example, for Nairobi, minimum wage is 15,000.
And a few shillings on top.
You go outside Nairobi, kidogo like Kiambu is 13. it goes and reduces, but there's nowhere where it's below 10,000.
10,000.
So you need to be very familiar.
Yeah.
First pay, do the right pay,
Yeah.
which is 15,000 and a few shillings. And then there's that statutory deductions. Are you remitting NHIF for your employee? Yes. Are you remitting? Are you remitting for them a retirement fund? Have you registered them for a retirement fund?
Even retirement funds.
Yes, it doesn't have to be NSSF, but there needs to be a retirement fund. And let me tell you where it catches up with you. One day you dismiss this employee, and they decide to look elsewhere, and they are told this is how it goes. You're going to be deep trouble.
Yeah.
So you're better off safe from the word go.
Yeah.
And how much is retirement fund? Like NSSF is how much? 200 shillings.
No, it's gone up, I think, now.
to 400?
Yeah.
Thereabout?
Yeah.
It's minimal compared
Yes.
to what you're paying them. You can always spare that extra hundreds to cover their retirement fund.
But I think then the question is, and Edna touched on it. So I have employed someone, I'm paying them 15,000. But they have also maybe employed someone back in their home to take care of their
their
children
children, exactly.
or something. But they cannot meet that same wage.
Yeah.
So how do we navigate that? Am I just that elephant in the room for let us cope with it later?
Your burden is your employee. So you want to make sure that the one who is in your house, who
Yes.
is under your pay slip,
Okay.
is taken care of. So as long as you meet their expectations, their monthly salary is paid according to the minimum wage of the country. They get their medical cover. They get and which, for example, the medical cover, it saves you big.
Yes.
This somebody gets sick in your house, you will foot the bill.
NHIF comes in handy.
Exactly. So NHIF comes in handy. It's just a few hundred shillings and it will save you almost thousands and hundreds. For example, for us as a facility, we've had experiences where somebody did not make the statutory deduction for the girl for NHIF and they ended up paying hundreds of thousands.
Wow.
Would Jay have paid the 500 shillings?
Yes.
It would have saved them a
Would
lot.
not be here.
Yeah. So
Okay.
make sure you pay their NHIF or whichever retirement fund you want to register them.
Yes.
Their medical bill is covered, NHIF, and you just pay the minimum wage.
Minimum wage. It feels like a full-time job. And
It is.
That's why it's HR at home.
Yes.
It's very full-time.
It is full-time, 24 hours on the clock.
Yeah.
It is full-time.
Edna, let me ask you from your experiences, how have you integrated cultural differences, cultural or religious differences? Because those do come to play at our homes. How do you integrate that? For example, burdens, because that's what we do as Kenyans. I want this tribe, this is her religion, this is that. So how do you bring yourself out to say, I am a person first before I am all these things?
Yeah. So that's an interesting one. And again, I'll refer back to how I started with all this, can I call it baggage or knowledge from way back. And you hear, no, don't go for this tribe. This one's they are, and someone would even use the word lazy or this one's they can't work. This one's. So for me, I don't know. I never ask about that. For me, I believe so long as you can do the work.
Yes.
I've never been super specific to say, and agencies will ask you, agencies and bureaus, unataka kabila gani?
What tribe?
So for me, honestly, that has never been an issue for me. So long as you can do the work, so long as you have the temperament, you tick the boxes and you're happy to work with us and you're a good match, you may be from anywhere. And again, we still go back to how would I like to be treated? How would I like to be, would I like someone to say, that one because she's from such and such a place? No.
I don't want. Yeah.
So for me, I try not to really ask about that. But on the other hand, we also have to be cognizant that, it's a unique profession, it's a unique position because this is someone who is living at your home, living and interacting with your kids very closely, very often. So there's a formality to it, and I understand, we try to formalize, standardize. We don't want them to be exploited. But on the other hand, there's also a bit of like you're in each other's space. So it's kind of a unique in that way that there's a way you can compare it to the office job, but there's a way you also, I don't live with my boss.
That is true, yes. So
like
you can't
I'm
bring
not,
corporate
my boss does not see me fasting in the morning and showered. I've just rolled out of the, like it doesn't really, I'm not, you're in the home almost 24/7. So I believe there's also a unique aspect to it.
Yeah.
when it comes to religious or leaning, that I have to say that I do ask about that, because I also want to be careful, because, who is influencing my kids?
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
we have to be honest that they will influence the kids. Yes, you will
Yes.
want to say, I'm the one who is, but I'm at work a chunk of the time.
Yes.
My kids have to be taken care of.
Yeah.
There's some things I cannot be in control. I'm not like a full-time stay-at-home mom at this point in my life.
Yeah.
So, yes. So for that, I am careful to ensure that, what kind of values do you hold? Where do you go to church? What are
Yes.
your beliefs like,
Yes. Yes.
And
What don't you eat?
yes.
Because it also affects your budget then. Yeah.
So I try to ask about things like that, because I believe that even them on their end, they might go to a home where, there's some values and beliefs that are there, and they're like,
sit right with
okay, yes, I'm looking for a job, but I can't
Yeah,
handle
you've heard
this.
of
So
people
I
being
think
told
it's
to wash snakes.
Yeah.
I mean, all kinds of people like to all kinds of stuff out here. So, so for me, I try to be careful about that. And at the end of the day, only God can see someone's heart.
That's
I
true.
I will pray and pray that that I'm making the right decision, to be led by God, to accept the right kind of people into my home. But yeah, it's definitely important
Yeah.
for cultural. I'm not very, but for the religious or spiritual,
It's a big
the
deal.
values, that one I try to at least be keen on, just to hear where you're coming from, because yes,
You
you're
will
living in my home,
influence.
you will influence my kids.
And that's true.
Yeah.
Metrin, allow me to ask a question. And we've had it because we saw it again with
Yeah.
our parents.
Yeah.
Mama, ninaomba loan. Mama, I want an advance.
Yeah.
I need, so your 21 days maybe are over, but I need days. How do you encourage a young mom, maybe facing that, or any mom going through that today? How do you deal with that situation for loans,
Advances.
extra days? Yeah.
Okay, well, professionally, we require a client to be very upfront in the first. What are your expectations? This is where it comes from.
Yeah.
There are people who don't mind. We understand that we live in very uncertain times, and sometimes finances could be very difficult to manage and maneuver around. So if you're good with that, you can state it during your expectation. As you're stating your expectation, you're like, yes, I'm paying you maybe 20,000. I do not expect you to ask me for a loan that is more than your salary, so that even you, as the person who's taking the loan, you're able to manage it, to
Yes,
pay it.
yes.
And that is where it comes in handy for me, because with my background in finance, we are able to take these girls through financial management lessons.
love that.
So you don't just take a loan for the sake of taking it.
I want a new phone.
Yes, you need to have very, very disciplined financially, and to have financial skills, financial management skills.
So you're able to mentor them at Zaria
Exactly.
and say, this is how you plan your money.
Yeah.
You're earning 15,000.
You need to be able to grow with your salary.
Yes.
As much as the employer is also expected to give you a growth in terms of wages, also you as a person, you need to be able to grow your salary, considering you are in that house 24/7 most of the time. Can it be maybe by the end of your employment, you have something tangible? I did this. I was at Metrin's place, and this is what I did
I
at.
was able to buy a piece of land.
Yes, yes, yes.
I love that. Edna, tell me about constructive feedback. I'm not sure at the heat of the moment, maybe your child has fallen and it was really an accident, or the onions have burnt and it happened Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Hey, so how do you go about giving constructive feedback? Yeah.
Wow, that's a good one. I think you really have to, especially if it's something that has been done in a way that you don't want it to be done, and or something has been wasted, something has been broken, spoiled, all that. First, you need to manage yourself. Like to
call yourself to a meeting.
Because you don't. There's also there's a way you don't want to come at someone with a lot of anger and violence, as we like to call it. Not in the real sense, but just violence, the way we like to call it. But I think you really need to manage yourself first. Take a deep breath And then even just think about how you're going to approach the person and tell them, if it's something that you've already trained, coached, maybe it's something that has been done, it's being done consistently.
Yes, yes.
Need to, maybe that's where you can find
Be
out,
hanging
okay,
the clothes inside
yes,
out.
I think I've mentioned this to you several times, or I think we talked about that this is how this should be done. And, sometimes someone will say, oh, nilisahau. And I mean, at the end of the day, we keep
Ni
defaulting
mtu.
back.
Yeah.
Ni mtu, it's
It's
just
a
someone
person.
like you. People
Yeah.
forget.
Extend
People
grace.
make mistakes. Just extend a lot of grace.
Yeah.
But then there are now some other big ones, like how you're dealing with the kid. When it now comes to
Shouting,
like maybe
yelling.
shouting at kids, or just something to do with how you're treating the
Dressing.
kids.
Can we get that down that
yes,
hole?
Yeah. I've had that before. I once had a very young girl, and she was fantastic when she stayed with us. She was very young. I think she was 20 or 21. She stayed with us for almost a year. She was very, very great work ethic. But of course, she was young, and she
Yes.
she wants to kutokelezea, all that stuff. So once in a while, hey, she would show up, and I'm like, wow,
yeah.
okay, first of all, I have a daughter, and and my daughter was young at the time.
Yeah.
I had to talk to her, like, I'm sorry to approach you like her big sister.
Oh, you
Let
had
me,
it.
let's have the
Cushion,
big
cushion.
sister talk. Yeah. And I mean, she's free. I told her, okay, when you're working or when you're here, there's a certain way I would expect you to dress. I'm not like asking you to be very, but please just ensure that you're
Modest.
You're modest. When you're out there on your own off, I will not require you. That's on you. That's
But
on
I
you.
have a question, because I had a friend who went through something, and it was so ever to say work ethic is good, everything. And when she goes out on Saturday, it's her off day. So she'll go for more enjoy, or she'll go for fun times. And part of that fun times is drinking. So when she comes on Sunday, you can smell like she had a party, she had a good time. But on Monday, she's okay. But how do you draw the line for drinking
Now-
my kids? Yes, Metrin.
You see, for centers like our center, these girls are taught on accountability.
All right.
You have, even us at the office set up, you have to be accountable.
Yeah.
You're supposed to give reports by Monday. You've not given reports by Monday.
Yeah.
You definitely will be
woke up
questioned.
late.
You'll be questioned about that.
Yeah.
So even them in the house, they're supposed to do their clothes a certain way. They haven't done. You've talked the first day. You've oriented. You've trained. You've shown. It gets back to accountability.
Accountability.
You have to be accountable for your mistakes.
And responsible also.
And responsible. Accountability and being responsible for that. Own up your mistake, try and correct on it, and work on it. On the bit of alcohol drinking,
Yeah, because
Spiritual
Edna
nourishment.
Edna told us, treat them as you would treat, how you want to be treated.
how I would want to be treated, I would not go to work drunk. I would go for my
yes.
parties
Yes,
and then settle. By the time I'm going to work, I am as fresh
as possible.
as possible. So we do, most of our girls are Christians. Spiritual nourishment comes in handy.
Wow.
They have to be nurtured spiritually.
Spiritually,
They
yeah.
have to be nurtured. If you have the fear of the Lord in you, you will not go back to your employer's house drunk.
Yeah. Or even fear of the employer.
Yes.
Because your work is at
It's
stake
needed,
here,
yeah.
and that therefore your livelihood.
Exactly.
Metrin, allow me to ask a question. I recently heard that now domestic workers, and preferably, let's say, house helps, are now part of trade unions.
Yes.
And it is your right to be part of a trade
exactly.
union. So how do I balance that as a young mom? I'm starting out, let's say like Edna, when
The
she was
fear,
starting out.
yeah.
Then you hear, what am I
Work on a
joining?
union.
Eh,
It is actually good, both for you, the
okay.
employer, and for the girl.
how? Tell us.
I mean, this union governs them. It gives them guidelines on how to behave in your house. So there are some funny characters and funny things somebody who is in a union will not bring in your home. Like, for example, this issue of going on leave days and not coming back. You see, they go, they stay, you agree, you're supposed to come on the second.
Yes.
On the second, no show, no communication. On the third, no show, no communication. If you are dismissed at that point, who will you blame? Nobody. If you're in that union, the union will clearly tell you their rules, the regulations. If you know you have an emergency, communicate with your employer.
Yes.
Emergencies do happen. Communicate with your employer. And work on a way forward. There's communicating and there's way forward. Okay, sawa, you're not coming.
Yeah.
Way forward.
Inakaje.
When are you
Yeah.
planning to come?
Yes.
Can I get somebody to hold your position as we
Yes.
wait for you?
Yeah.
You see,
Okay.
that's way forward. These unions are there to protect both
Both.
the employee and the employer. And me as an employer, I'd be very comfortable knowing my girl is in a union, because then we will not be negotiating about it at the middle of the year in July.
Yeah.
I want salary increment.
Aha.
You see?
Yeah.
Because ideally salary increment should be annually, should be reviewed annually.
Annually,
You reviewed it in January, but because now she feels like her budget is too tight in July, Madam, unajua, I wanted to tell you that we need to discuss about this salary. If somebody is in a union, that will not happen.
Oh, so it's saving both of us.
It is saving both of you.
I like
You should
it.
even encourage them to be in those unions. Follow the rules on your side.
Yeah.
As long as they're in their union, they will stick on their lane.
Do you?
So
You're
it's
safe.
keeping you accountable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, as I've said, for me, it's taken years of growth to
And learning.
and then learning. And I'm still in that journey, by the way. I'm not
It's
Sijafika.
never over.
It's taken me a long time to get to a place even where I'm giving a contract. You just things are very loose in how things used to be done. You come, okay, I'm paying you this much, but then there's no. But now, with all that I've learned now, as you're referring to, I'm trying also to be on the straight and narrow. I want to do things right. I don't want to live in the fear that I'm going to be
tomorrow, yes.
or someone is going to wake up and say, no, I don't think. And I think a lot of us have shied or used to shy away from that because we are coming from a place of no information. And information is power. Now the information is out there. Know the laws and try to act accordingly.
According to the laws.
And that way you can live knowing that, I'm doing the right thing. If ever things go, and things can go south, you can live with someone even for 5 years. Yeah. Things are going very smoothly. You just never know what tomorrow. You've trusted them with your life. You've given all you can. Then one day, you just never know.
Yeah.
So I like that, that, I'm also being kept accountable because on the other hand, even us as employers, honestly, we also need to.
Yes.
And even for us who are in formal employment, I mean, we know all the rules and the laws and the regulations. If we are able to work, now we are employees in these formal sectors. If we are able to work under those rules, why shouldn't we provide that at home?
The same opportunity.
At home.
Treat them as you want to be treated. I think that
Exactly.
is one of my greatest takeouts. But Edna, allow me to ask another question. Today I'm a student. I keep saying I'm a student on this show. You mentioned that when someone is coming, no one wakes up one day, unless not because it's progressing, and say, when I grow up, I want to be a house help, or I want to be. They have dreams, they have aspirations. What's the place of self-development to the help, and how do you offer that? Let's even start. Is there a place for ensuring that there's personal development? Yeah.
No, I think there's a place for that. And I like that you say that, of course it's a profession. I'm not,
Yes.
I say that even meaning that, the house help as we know it, not, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Noland, a place called Noland in the UK where some very high-end nannies who are trained in au pairs.
Yes.
Not au pairs, actually.
Oh.
Au pair is slightly different.
All right.
These are nannies who are trained in even like defensive driving, like all manner, like, culinary skills, like gourmet cooking, all, it's very,
I love it.
So that's, I imagine there are people who choose, but I'm talking about nannies or house helps as we know them, the one
In a
where,
Kenyan setting.
in our setting,
Yes.
many people did not grow up, thinking that, this is a dream or this is the goal. So you asked about, professional development. I think it's very important.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it should be encouraged as much as possible. So for me personally, what I've done with regard to professional development hasn't been as much as I would like to, because again, I've been in the season of having very young children. And if it's studying or going to do a course out there, we haven't really had that luxury. 2 of my kids are now in school. I have an infant at home. So maybe that time will come where I'll be, go forth.
Yeah.
Go and,
Be
and
doing
get the
driving
skills.
between 10 and 12, then
but
you come
that
home.
said, we have things like even first aid courses. I've had 1 or 2 of my nannies trained in that. And I mean, it's just like a loose Saturday where, go from 8 to 4, I'll organize myself at home.
Yes.
Go and get your certificate. And it's benefiting you should you want to continue that. You've added like, look, future employer, look, I have this certification.
yes.
And it's also a benefit to me that, you
Yes.
know, you're trained in first aid. If anything
It
happens,
happens.
maybe I'm not there, you can act. And she still remembers. Once in a while, she says, you know,
Yeah.
I remember we were taught in that first aid class that this is what you're supposed to do when a baby is choking. So yes, I believe it's very important. I know that the people who send their helps when they have the time, maybe all the kids are in school,
Yeah.
they do like a hair styling course.
Yes.
Something I'll also add, so this is not per se like a course, but I've taught my nanny a few things like baking. She's so keen on cooking.
Yeah.
So that's something I have at the back of my mind, that
Yeah.
there's a particular time when I have the time and the resource for it, I want to bring in someone to, I don't know, a few
Yes.
days, can chill on a few things.
Yes.
We'll be having yummy food. We'll be very
Yeah,
happy.
it's for your benefit.
And she used to run her own business. And she tells me, you know, Mimi, you know, mambo ikiingiana, you know, I would love to, this is what I'd love to do. She used to have a food business a while back.
Yeah.
It's just that things maybe didn't go as planned. And so, yeah, why not? Please, I encourage it as much as possible.
Yes.
And this is something I would love to support on. And in some small ways, I give her recipes. Can you try this?
Yes.
She's very like happy and quick to learn all these things.
Yeah,
And I don't know, when I'm in a position to, that's something I actually plan to have her do.
Metrin?
So, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Gone are the days when house help was situation. And most of them, truly, most of them, they find themselves there because of situationship. You know, you got pregnant while in school.
yes.
Maybe you are sent away from home. So you need to get into that. You lost your parents, you could no longer continue with education. So it is a profession and it needs growth. So if an employer, if you're in a position where you can assist your help to grow, well, go for it. You could send them for a driving course to save you the cost of having a driver to drop your kids to school.
Yeah.
You see?
Unfortunately, or fortunately, because I always say the end of something is the beginning of something beautiful, we need to wind up. But we must wind up with a power shot. And briefly, even as we conclude, surveillance technology, CCTV. Tell us how that boundary looks like shortly, briefly.
Okay.
How far do we go, even as we close? Metrin.
Okay, so we appreciate the fact that as a mom or as an employer, you need to have your eyes on when you're not at home.
Yes.
Because I mentioned this is a stranger you're bringing to your house, so you just never know. But we also need to be very careful on where to draw the lines.
Yes.
Otherwise, you could get yourself again
Into trouble.
Exactly. So where do we put these cameras? It is very unethical. Even outside the law, you cannot put a camera in the washroom,
Oh, okay. Yes.
in the bathrooms.
Yes.
Privacy. What
Yes.
happened to privacy?
Yeah.
You cannot put it in their bedroom. But you can put it in your kids' bedrooms, in the living room, because you need your eyes there. Maybe you've traveled, you're not in the country. You need to see what's happening.
And now this is it come with a mic.
Exactly.
So you're giving instruction.
While in the US.
I had a mom saying that and
Yeah.
I laughed. I was like,
Yeah, it happens in the
It's
US, and you're like,
controlled.
can you feel
Yeah.
that baby? Open your mouth. Liam, can you open your mouth?
Oh,
From the US. You
yeah.
know, it has its own pros and cons.
Yes.
So you just need to know when to draw the line
Yeah.
and when not to be too much.
And not to be against the law.
The law,
Yeah.
especially privacy. You need to respect people's privacy. Most of the time, there's a setup, there's an SQ. Give them that space. Give them that room.
Let
they
them.
need to also have a breather.
Yes.
Working with cameras all over you, sometimes it can be too much. They need that 1 minute breather.
Now give us your parting shot even as we leave.
Well, I understand it's a very tough journey, but thank goodness centers like our facility, we are there to walk you through that journey. We are there to take you step by step through all the processes, all the legal processes, even getting you a perfect match. You know, it's never easy. You might get it wrong the first time, the second time, but eventually you will settle. And like we say at Zaria Center, we do not settle until you're settled.
Hey, I love it.
Yes.
So we can find, are you on Instagram?
Yes, we are on Instagram at Zaria Center.
Zaria Center.
Facebook Zaria Center.
An email info at
TikTok at Zaria Center.
oh, they're on TikTok.
We are keeping up with technology.
Yes. Any email info at
ZariaCenter@gmail.com.
Zaria Center, and center is CNTER.
Yes.
Okay.
British.
Edna,
Yes.
as we conclude, to give the Wi-Fi password or not?
Wow. Funny enough, for me, that was never a problem for a couple of years because I used to get helps who either had the kabam, it's called kabambe.
Yes, kabambe or tululu.
Tululu, yes.
Tululu.
So it was never an issue, and I was like, okay, and we don't watch much TV at home as well. So I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
okay, it's
Yeah,
working.
yeah.
Then now I'm in a slightly different place where I have actually allowed it, but with a disclaimer that the moment I see that, okay, well, no, I didn't come threateningly like that, but please, I just said please use it use it responsibly.
Yeah.
I don't expect you to be on it when you need to take care of the baby or something needs to be done, but in your free time, sure, why not? She has a smartphone,
Yeah.
and she uses WhatsApp, sometimes I'll send her things to look at, or
Yes.
so yeah, for me, I've given it out, and it seems to be working. It seems to be responsibly used. So far so good.
Yeah.
I've not seen it being an issue. She listens to her music, she watches a few things, or when she's washing dishes she'll be playing music. I'm like,
yes.
yeah,
Well done.
enjoy yourself while you're motivate yourself while you're working.
Yeah.
So yeah, so,
I love that,
and I
but-
know that on the flip side it can also be used irresponsibly.
Yes.
People could be watching content you don't want your kids exposed to.
Or your house is the content.
Yes. Someone is going live.
Yeah.
I've had that going live, at your house, someone is
Wearing
live.
your clothes.
Yeah, I've had those stories. So yeah, it's a slippery slope, but I believe it can be used responsibly.
So
Yeah.
tell me, as we conclude, I am starting out on this employment journey. Give me words of wisdom. I don't know where to start.
Yes. Set your goal and know the labor laws.
Yes.
And just act accordingly.
Yeah.
Use the golden rule. Treat others as you'd like to be treated. Extend grace. And just do things according to the law. Be intentional.
Be intentional.
Yes.
I love it. We have had a wonderful time of conversation talking about HR at home here at Heartfelt Conversation. It's sad to say goodbye, but it's also beautiful because next week we're going to be having another heartfelt, deep dive conversation on matters that have an impact on us. I want to say a big thank you to the team behind the camera that makes all this happen. I am grateful to each and every one of you. I want to say thank you to the partners that have formed a network that offers support to ensure that we keep Jesus on the airwaves and that the content is clean and beautiful, even for your nanny, but they can watch, and for growth. If you want to be part of this great network, you can send the word partner to 20316, or even you can pay using pay bill number 316 and the account number is your telephone number, and I promise you we will get back to you. But most of all, I want to say thank you to God for giving us another opportunity to have a heartfelt conversation. So until next week, Tuesday, from us, all of us here on this set is Cheerio and a big God bless ya.